Welcome to The Game. This is the show where we go play by play analyzing the game of politics. Washington is once again holding the country hostage with a government shutdown looming, and Democrats are pointing fingers while refusing to take responsibility. We'll talk about the pattern of left-wing violence that the media still won't admit exists, and then the latest boycott targeting Netflix after parents discovered yet another trans-affirming show marketed to children. Abroad, Japan just elected its first female prime minister, and she's a hard right conservative shaking up the establishment. And finally, we'll look at how Democrats are still defending illegal criminals like MS-13 trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia, even after multiple deportation orders. Let's dive in. So guys, today we have some very special guests with us first, and she's been on the show before. Welcome back, Angelina Tamez. She's a chairwoman for a chamber of commerce in Texas. Welcome, Angelina. And she's also a great political organizer. Welcome to The Game. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, Daniel Garza, who is the CEO of the Libre Initiative, who is always on top of things and is one of the leading voices within the Hispanic American community here in the U.S. to comment on all of today's fun topics, right?
Thank you, Driena. What a pleasure to be on with both of you.
No, it's my honor to be guest hosting today. So Wadi will be back. He's abroad, but we're definitely missing his presence here. So,
well, what are those rare circumstances where we actually improve on the host?
Nah, we go side by side. So guys, I mean, this government shutdown, it's a rare occurrence, and we're getting another one today. And we don't know if there's any end in sight to it, but there's definitely some kind of a blame game going on between the left and the right. Well, what is the general consensus is that basically Democrats would rather shut down the government than give up on free healthcare for illegal immigrants or non-citizens or non-residents, permanent residents here in the U.S. And so people are saying that this isn't really compassion that we're talking about on behalf of the Democrats. They're trying to use this as a political ploy. Here are some key facts for anybody that, has not been looped into what we're chatting about here. Well, Democrats have refused to pass the spending bill that funds another year of the government because they want to make sure that free healthcare for illegals is included in this bill. And Republicans are saying no. And so we're at a standstill right now. The country is almost being held hostage by this one minute little detail. President Trump urged Congress to fund the government without funding chaos, calling the Democrats' position hostage-taking for open borders. So very strong language there. What is going on, right? When people say a government shutdown, does it mean that when we open the door and look outside, there's going to be flying planes crashing and just absolute chaos and dystopia? What is going on, and what does this actually mean? Well, it means that essential services still remain funded, but programs like WIC, so these are, kind of like the food stamps for children, and Head Start face temporary lapses, which do hurt the families that Democrats claim to protect. I know Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna made a video on social media the other day saying that mothers and their children that are low income are probably literally going to starve as a result of this confrontation. And, well, Republican leaders are saying that Democrats are weaponizing the shutdown narrative to shift blame ahead of the midterms, while the GOP proposals actually preserve military pay and border security funding. So there's definitely a lot of contention around this topic, and we're going to chat about it here. There's mixed opinions from the left and even from the right, right? So I'll start with you, Daniel. So who do you think really benefits from dragging the country to this brink, to sending it into chaos? Democrats that are demanding these extras, or Republicans that are insisting on fiscal discipline?
Well, I think Chuck Schumer is trying to make it so that the radical left wing of his party gets to benefit. I mean, if it was only healthcare for undocumented folks, is one thing, but it's much more than that, Driana. Democrat far left demands include $1.5 trillion dollars in a ridiculous woke wish list just to keep government open for 7 weeks. It's the Democrats who are holding the process hostage so that they can spend an extra, 1.5 trillion dollars. It's the Democrats wishing to impose the will of the minority on over that of the elected majority. The Americans didn't vote for you as the majority. They voted for the Republicans, and yet, they're acting as if they're the majority and using these sort of maneuvers to try to get there. And it's the Democrats who voted against a clean CR bill that the Republicans have proposed. So they're the ones who are trying to benefit and achieve their political aims and
Hmm.
spend like they always do.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that position definitely. I think that long term it's going to hurt them, at least their public image when it comes to the midterms. But their base is easily swayed by these kinds of tactics. When a lot of the stuff that I see Democrats do is to show that they are the resistance, pushing the trans agenda, for example, which we'll talk about later on. They're catering to such a small minority. I wonder if it's to show their base just how big of a heart they have, and so that way they can rally their people to go out and vote for them in the upcoming elections. Um, well, Angelina, over here, I've got a question for you. So, why is it then that you think Democrats are prioritizing these illegal immigrant benefits or non-American citizen or non-legal resident benefits over just essential domestic programs?
Because they're playing politics. And quite frankly, I'm very, very grateful that you're bringing this topic up because I am living in utter frustration and product of it. You see, my partner, he is in the Navy. And this week we had a tough conversation. Him and I have been making some plans, right? And now they're halted because he's not receiving a paycheck. And the worst part
Mm,
is that he's completely unaware and now completely lost because he doesn't know when he's going to be compensated. And essentially, he's waking up around 3 a.m. daily and being away from his home, from his family, missing holidays for free. And I can't speak on
mhm,
behalf of all servicemen and women who are serving without pay. However, I can speak for my family that when he volunteered himself to leave his home and commit to his country, he didn't ever believe
mhm,
that his own government would be holding his paycheck hostage. He was deployed to
mhm,
the Mediterranean during the Gaza conflict, while Biden declared that there was no boots on ground. And his thank you for that is that Democrat politicians are drowning him because they're striking for undocumented residents to receive $200 billion in healthcare. It's truly unfathomable, especially when a 2025 survey by the NFCC found that 50% of active duty US military personnel report that they are just getting by financially. So half of them
mhm,
declare that they're living paycheck to paycheck. I believe that these
mhm,
Democrat senators, they are just so incredibly out of touch with the common man. They get elected, they make their six-figure salary, and they completely forget the majority of Americans aren't thinking, gas money is high and eggs are high, and
mhm.
I don't have money in my savings. But yes, let's pause the pay of our military, our
Right.
law enforcement as well, and
Yeah.
raise our
Mhm.
must be allocated
Yeah.
toward illegal immigrants while I can't purchase a home.
Yeah.
This is just not what the
Yeah.
common man is thinking.
I I am well, there you have it, folks. Just a real world example of exactly who this shutdown is affecting and impacting negatively. The people that agreed to protect and serve and sacrifice their own lives, if necessary, for the protection of this country, which I think is absolutely insane that that is the case. The last time this happened, I remember seeing reports of so many government workers that missed out on making mortgage payments or credit card payments and would rather face the late fees than, obviously give up anything that they have, like the little savings that they do have in the bank, if that. a lot of people just couldn't afford their day-to-day life because, as you know, a lot of Americans in this country live paycheck to paycheck. The economy is still extremely unstable, and so these are the real stories of people affected. I do think, on a personal note, that the government and its spending is still very inflated. I think there's a lot of government employees that, were furloughed, because I do know cases of these, and they're just taking kind of like a little mini vacation at this point. And they definitely, at least for my commute the other day, to the studio, to another studio, it made it a lot shorter because there were a lot of less cars in the road. But there are still essential government employees, and definitely the people that protect and serve us count as that. Daniel, I'd like to go back to you. Is this fight just proof that Washington or one political party has completely forgotten about just budgeting and fiscal responsibility?
Absolutely. And the pain that Angelina was talking about. And this is the Democrats who know exactly the damage that they are willing to impose, the pain that they are willing to impose on Americans during this shutdown. But they want to leverage that pain, to reach their political aims, or their policy aims in this case. And they could care less about what the Americans are feeling. And what matters to them is that they reward their radical left wing with taxpayer funded treats. During the sort of trick or treat era, these are payoffs for the support of the base. And the worst part about all this is that we've learned that it is the AOC wing of the party that is in full control, Driena. Mike Johnson had said that the only person who can decide, when our troops, our TSA agents, and our Border Patrol officers begin to get paid again is Chuck Schumer. I think it turns out to be AOC. It turns out. So I mean, look, on top of everything that they're trying to do, 3 million for circumcisions and vasectomies in Zambia, 833,000 for transgender people in Nepal, like 100,000 for a pride parade in Lesotho. What is that? I don't even know where that country is. It's USAID woke funding masked as Democrat urgent funding needs. They're trying to replace what they lost. And so this is just a scam being driven by the Democrats, and it's money laundering at its worst.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned a lot of funding that was cut previously to programs that were supposed to be aid for different places around the world, different countries, different causes, and we saw, thanks to Doge, and the openness of where our funds were going, because of the work that Elon Musk and Trump did with that how ridiculous some of these spending costs truly are. And we also saw that a lot of this USAID was truly just a way to help with the interests of the Democrats in a way that didn't seem so direct. And that golden calf, that golden cow, was completely cut off for them. So yeah, they're definitely using this as a way, I think, to fundraise support for what they consider their base. We'll see what happens with that, right? Let's hopefully not have to hold on to our breaths too long before they figure it out and stop playing this game of hostage with this country. So on to the next important topic of the day. Well, it seems to be a recurring theme. This political violence that has stemmed from the left, and that we just hear of new cases every single day, and the media is trying to convince us that, oh, it's really not that bad, or oh, it's actually both sides, or oh, violent rhetoric is actually coming from both sides, or oh, this is just a minute amount of people that believe in this violent ideology, that believe in physical harm to other people because they think differently. And every day, it seems that we get proof that this is not the case, that a lot of these violent beliefs in hurting people because of the fact that they think differently from us is kind of the consensus among the left based amongst the citizens, right? Just people who vote, and also Democrat leadership. So, as you know, obviously the most tragic and recent case, of course, was the assassination of Charlie Kirk, CEO and founder of Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action.
Yeah.
Also, had been my boss for almost an entire decade. And, we thankfully as an organization bonded together, have been grieving through this process. And the what we take away from it is, we have to prevent this from going further. But then I hear news like this of this Virginia Democrat Attorney General nominee, well, Jay Jones, his name is Jay Jones, who said that he fantasized about shooting the former GOP Speaker of the House, Todd Gilbert. These were text messages that came to light. And still, he has all his full party endorsements. Specifically, Jones described a scenario in which Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head, followed by a wish that this Republican lawmaker's children, guys, die in their mother's arms. So, not just wishing harm upon your political opponents, but also on the innocent children of them as well. How do we, I mean, it's just something that is incredible. Governor Northam and Senator Kaine, Democrats, have not disavowed him. Obviously, this is just a part of a much, much broader pattern. And so, why does, and I'll throw it first to Angelina with this one. Why do you think it is that the left just consistently refuses to condemn violence from its own side?
Because it's absolutely been normalized in their side. And first and foremost, I'm deeply sorry about your loss, Driena. I know how I took the death as someone who was a Turning Point president for 3 years, and I can't imagine how you feel. And so that's why I'm concerned, because the lack of a single high-profile Democrat demanding Jones to withdraw from the race is utterly terrifying. We are normalizing this in our country. We've witnessed what political violence transpires into. What transpired on September 10th when we lost one of the most impactful lives in the conservative movement. And the language spoken by Jones is exactly what normalizes political hate crimes. Abigail Spanberger, she made a public statement saying that she condemns violent speech. However, when asked whether to confirm whether or not she believes if he's qualified for the role of AG, she completely dodged the question. And so there's two things to note here is that first, we cannot allow violent speech among candidates and politicians to ever be normalized. And second, we cannot allow our elected officials on either side of the aisle to not condemn political violence to the fullest extent. And that includes deeming those who spew this hatred as unfit for office. And that's point period. After the assassination of Charlie Kirk, my generation is terrified of voicing their opinions. How devastating is that? We were raised, told to always stand up for what you believe in and use your voice. However, look what happened to this man when he did so. So no matter how optimistic we want to comprehend this tragic situation, the truth remains that my generation, Gen Z, will have this permanently embedded in our minds as an example of what can go wrong when we speak our truth. And countless young adults will not return to the fight in utter disgust and out of fear. And that is the raw current state of America. And the language that was spoken by Jay Jones only amplifies it. So the good people of America absolutely deserve him out of the race.
Yeah, and I think that there's, like you mentioned, there's that reaction obviously when tragedy like this occurs, when this leftist violence occurs to good people just for speaking out. There's a percentage of the population that probably get scared and then decide to quiet down and not, speak out. There's also an opposite equal and I think greater reaction, at least when it comes to the recent, Charlie Kirk tragedy, just because of the fact that so many people inquired online immediately after the tragedy to start new Turning Point USA chapters across the country and to get involved, it does give me a glimmer of hope. Because then there's these people that may have not even been political before, may have never voiced their opinions publicly, that became empowered as a result of this incident, because they would rather die in freedom for what they believe in and as a free person saying what it is that they want, than to live a life just keeping that within. So I think you do get the two opposing sides to this for sure. I mean, my when this happened, my parents called me and they're like, "You've been doing this for 10 years, and you've been working with the organization for 10 years, and you've got to be careful now what you say, what you do." So definitely that's a concerned person's reaction. So I completely understand that perspective. Daniel, why do you think that these endorsements aren't being revoked, and what kind of precedent does that set for future incidents like this, where a Democrat leader or aspiring leader is just caught red-handed saying that they wish the absolute worst on people who disagree with them, on the children of the people that disagree with them, and the left and everybody is just locked in arm by arm saying we're going to stand with each other and not do anything about this?
Well, because Driena, to them, to the left, folks in power, the fact that their candidate is a psychopath, is a degenerate, depraved individual, is secondary to their priority, which is to retain power, to retain positions of power. That's what matters to them. Their end game is to control your behavior, to control your lives, to govern over you, with their ideas and their policies. And unfortunately, the aims of terrorists is to have a chilling effect, to impose their will on you. As was being discussed, the parents' reaction, to you, Adriana, is normal, and so that could chill, folks from using their voice, to express their ideas and their aspirations and what they feel is the wrong direction, for the way we are being governed. They want to control you. That's what matters to them. And nothing illustrates how low the Democratic Party has fallen more than this situation. Democrat AG candidate, Attorney General. This isn't just some random,
Mm-hmm. Nope.
position. This isn't dog catcher. With all respect to dog catchers, this is Attorney General. A
Mm-hmm.
candidate, Jay Jones, his text of fantasies of murdering his political opponent and his children is psychopathic. He doesn't only need to drop out of the race. He needs a psych evaluation,
Yep.
and so to think that this level of depravity doesn't is not enough to distance other elected leaders from the Democratic Party and to call for his resignation is appalling. Is just tells you is a reflection of the state of the Democratic Party. The Fraternal Order of Police in Virginia have come out against Jay Jones and said you need to drop out. You need to get lost. And yet, like you guys say, none of the Democrats have responded or have rescinded their endorsements, much less that he drop out of the race.
Yeah.
It's
It's just
unbelievable.
it truly is. And I wonder if it's a situation where they just don't have another candidate to put up. Is this just a show of the moral collapse of the party as a whole? Is this the best that they've got? Because I feel like since this is such a huge PR issue for their side, the thing that would be instantaneously normally done is, okay, move this guy out, we'll put somebody else in, find anybody else, literally anybody else. It could be somebody with dementia, Biden. It could be, it could be just about anybody, but
Well,
not this guy.
then, you know what's fascinating about this is that even Joe Morning Joe has come out and said he needs to drop out. The
Mhm.
left wing media is some of them are in an extraordinary rare occasion.
Mhm.
But the other sources are saying that the GOP has seized on this. Hell yeah, we need to seize on this. The
Yeah.
entire GOP machine with everything of every voice in the media has to seize on this and call
Mhm.
this out. This is wrong. It's
Mhm.
not just left and right. This is about right and wrong. And
Yep.
so this is a time where it's okay to raise your voice and say, you know what, brother, step aside.
Hmm. Yeah, and we'll see what unfolds. Let's see what the people of Virginia think of all this, and hopefully, the message gets across to them that if they are ever not in lockstep with Democrat Party thinking and voting and policies, they will wish just the absolute worst on you, and they will make your life living hell if they have the power to do so. Um, and hopefully that's not going to be the case. Hopefully this works out in Republicans' favor, and hopefully Virginia is saved from psychopaths like this one. But we have other fronts in which we are being attacked as a country, especially our children. Well, Netflix, for whatever reason, has gotten into this psychopathic obsession to push this transgender agenda targeting kids. I have a few points here that are absolutely crazy that I learned very recently looking into this subject. Well, it seems that just all of the boards, every single member of Netflix's board donates to Democrats. So, maybe that's why they think that this pride content for kids is good business. And parents, thankfully, are just finally saying no more. So they're facing a new wave. Netflix is facing a new wave of subscription cancellations after releasing yet another program that promotes gender ideology. Thankfully, parents are up in arms about this. They are complaining online. They're showing some of this content through social media so other people see. Because let's be honest, sometimes parents aren't necessarily 100% focused on what kids are watching, on TV. They might be doing something else while the kids are in the living room, and so they might not notice these little hints here and there, or just blatant ideology that's being pushed on them. Well, it seems that this boycott too, because it has created different waves of repercussion, is kind of it might work. It might work. We saw similar boycott campaigns against, for example, Target. Target had kids clothing that promoted the LGBTQ plus whatever agenda. People rallied against it. They removed it. Bud Light decided to make, of all people on earth, a transgender left wing insane activist the voice of their product and brand, and that did not work out well for them. And they took a hit to their pocket. So why on God's green earth? I mean, are the shareholders not just blowing up their phones saying, "What are you guys doing?" I truly am wondering what is their have their if they've not learned their lesson from these previous incidents. What is their end goal in this? Daniel, I'll start with you. I mean, why does Netflix just continue doubling down on this just controversial content that's aimed at children despite so much public backlash?
Well, that's because there's a cancer inside their corporate
Mhm.
office, and it's called DEI. And folks who believe that this stuff should be pushed on others, this isn't entertainment. This is indoctrination, is what it is. And we have to ask ourselves, what exactly is Elon Musk calling for? When he's protesting Netflix and asking people to cancel Netflix. To that's aggressive. You would
Yeah.
think, right? But through its huge platform, and it's massive, it's worldwide now. Netflix promotes a radical trans agenda, basically, is what's happening. And like I said, this isn't just entertainment. It's an agenda that you're pushing on young little kids, 5, 6, 7 years old. This is inappropriate. It's immoral to do this to children. But this agenda also includes the castration surgery. This is mutilation of bodies of young adolescents. This is the promotion of pronouns to little children to erase their identity, their God-given identity, their sex. And this is again imposing their agenda on little brains that are mush, and it's exploiting them is what it is. I'm not normally a boycott guy. I'm not even a boycott guy. But when parents feel that they are being ignored, when the corporation is being indifferent to having lost its moral compass, then what else can you do is to send market signals that this is not acceptable. This will not happen on my watch as a parent. And so they are canceling Netflix and hopefully sending them a strong message, change your ways.
Yeah. I really do hope that's the case because I don't think there's anything more evil than telling innocent children that God put you in the wrong body, that there's something wrong with the way God made your body, and that you need to alter it. You need to physically, surgically alter it, take hormones to not be in the body that, God gave you. And obviously, as a woman, I'm all for different other physical alterations, but to tell somebody that God made a mistake, nature made a mistake in the way that they were born, and that they need to go against that and go against who they are as a person, um, for them to be happy is just truly absolutely evil. And I think the reason that they target these kids is because, well, that's the only way to make more of them, right? That's the only way to make more of the transgender community of the of these people. They're clearly not reproducing, so they have to create more of them via brainwashing. And there's nobody more susceptible than little children, and that's why they're doing it, and it's evil. Well, Angelina, what do you think? Should parents just, completely abandon these mainstream platforms entirely, or should they, try to reform them through just this consumer pressure that we're seeing?
I do believe that Netflix will be forced to change to reform themselves through the market. And Driena, I am so happy that you made the statement saying that there's no way that these children are going to believe that God put them, assigned them to the wrong body, because I wholeheartedly believe that. And that is my perspective on this.
Mm-hmm.
I have a niece and I have a nephew, and they are 6 and they are 7. And so I don't have mama bear instincts, but I have, tia bear instincts, if that's a thing. And, it's good on the parents who are boycotting them, definitely, because why are producers deliberately adding scenes of transgender children in shows where 7-year-olds are the intended audience? I mean, can you hear that? 7-year-olds are the intended audience. It's so unsettling
Yeah.
because what exactly is their mission here? There is no
Mm-hmm.
proper defense for this. Why do our children
Mm-hmm.
have to be forced to absorb what historically was always deemed a mental disorder? And that is my
Mm-hmm.
perspective on this.
It
Why
is.
would we
Yeah.
sit back and allow our children to believe in this concept that has revealed higher
Mm-hmm.
rates of alcohol and drug abuse, that has revealed
Yeah.
higher percentages of depression and anxiety? And in 2015, it was the US transgender study. They revealed that 40% of transgender adults had reported that in their lifetime they have attempted suicide at least once. And so why would we as caretakers sit back to this? Because our loved ones, their brains are so mush, as Daniel said, they're so malleable. They're in this stage where they're going to absorb anything they hear. You cannot judge
Yeah.
families for protecting the malleable minds of their children because like I said, there's no rational justification to be forcing this on a 7-year-old. No child believes that they are born in the wrong body until an adult deliberately places that idea in their head. And that is a fact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. And as a woman, I don't have kids yet, but I do plan on that being the case in the future. I think about these things and I'm like, am I gonna have to somehow find all the Tom and Jerry cartoons that I watched when I was a little kid and all the Disney Channel stuff and all the Cartoon Network stuff that I used to watch when I was a kid and just put all those back on as replays for my
We're
kids
completely
to
taking
make
it back.
sure they're not watching
When
anything insane and wild. Is that what it's going to have to come to just to make sure that they are not being brainwashed the second I'm not looking? Just things to think about the future. But at least, I feel like because of this controversy, a lot more eyes are on them. They used to promote these ideologies in a way that was a lot less noticeable before, and now I feel like since they're doing so blatantly, it's caught the eye of a lot more parents, and as a result they're on the lookout for it. So um and that kind of noticing creates change, right? It creates really big change, not just here in the US. So we're going to go to some positive news. We've got a new right wing female prime minister in Japan. They're calling her the female Trump, Sanae Takaichi. I hope I am not butchering that. But they're setting her up to become the nation's first female prime minister, and so she is somebody that idolizes Margaret Thatcher, as you guys know, the Iron Lady, the Iron Woman. She is 64. She is a conservative nationalist. She's an ally of the assassinated former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. She is known for her hawkish stances on defense and an economic platform. She has cited Margaret Thatcher as her role model, so she's not going to be a proponent of socialism. One of Margaret Thatcher's famous quotes is that the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. So we know that she has definitely a lot of good inspiration there. And so I think that this is definitely a rightward shift in Japan's politics. It's definitely emphasizing, national sovereignty, Japan first, right? And so this movement, I think it's reactionary to the left, not just here in the U.S. I think that the left globally has become a lot more extreme in what they believe and what they advocate for. We see a lot less eye to eye on things. It seems that there aren't many centrist Democrats in the U.S. or just centrist leftists around the world. It feels like they've gone full socialism, full communism, or at least a bigger faction of them have. And not just that, left wing societal policies or beliefs, like this whole LGBTQ transgender agenda. So, what do you think? What do you think her election kind of just signals about Japan's cultural and political shift to the right, Angelina?
So, first and foremost, I love it as a woman when women make history, but I love it even more when they're Trump and heels. And so, what this symbolizes is that Japan, the people of Japan, they have rejected socialism and the policies that have hurt them in the past. They're in the right direction. If we zoom out for a second, what we're seeing in Japan with Prime Minister Takaichi is that it's a part of a bigger trend in Europe and Asia, that nations, they're putting their citizens first and they're embracing nationalism. They're taking control of their future over policies that failed in the past. Prime Minister Takaichi, she isn't solely making history as the first female prime minister in Japan, but as well, she's standing up for Japan's sovereignty, their economy, the threat to
Mm-hmm.
China. In practical terms, this means stronger borders, a robust
Mm-hmm.
defense posture, policies that they're going to empower the Japanese worker, the common man in Japan, rather than over relying on government handouts. So this is the kind of leadership that benefits the people of Japan directly. And the good people of Japan,
Mm-hmm.
they rightfully deserve this type of leadership.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's true, the quote I've heard before that when that when America sneezes, the whole rest of the world does as well, or the rest of the world gets sick.
Yes.
Um, in a good way or a bad way, I think that what happens here in the US does influence a lot of what happens everywhere else. And after Trump's election in 2016, we've seen a lot more mini Trumps pop up in all parts of the world, and a lot more people are tuned into American politics. I mean, again, going back to the recent tragedy of Charlie Kirk's assassination, there were vigils for Charlie and memorials for Charlie held not just here in the US, but all over the world, in Japan, in South Korea, in India, in Europe, everywhere. There were vigils for Charlie because of what he represented. So I absolutely think that this ties into this political shift that we're seeing globally, and this new elected leader in Japan. Um, Daniel, so what do you think about this? Do you think that this global trend towards just nationalism and sovereignty, uh, is it accelerating because of years of this progressive left wing globalism?
It's a rejection of that. I think it's in the spirit of Milei and Meloni in Italy and Trump in the U.S. in that, Trump, for example, does not apologize for American might, doesn't apologize for American principles that are enshrined in our founding charters. Neither does Meloni. She wants Italy to be for Italians. Neither does Milei, in that he sees what his country could be economically, a powerhouse like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But he also understood that socialism and a lot of the globalist ideas are going to drive his country into the ground. And so he gave Argentinians a different vision. Here in Japan, they are rejecting this sort of woke direction that the country was in. The one thing that I love about American principles is that it honors or upholds the individual, in the sense that, when individuals are unleashed to leverage their skills and their talents and their innovation on a society, you just watch them create, you watch them generate wealth and respect each other. When you uphold the rule of law, you know limited government, separation of powers, sound money, property rights, these kind of principles that are the foundations of Western civilizations, people thrive, individuals
Mm-hmm.
thrive, right? And through mutual benefit, by participating in the marketplace, creating a product or a services that makes life better for others, you're going to be rewarded. And that's what we should uphold and honor, and that's what they're going to do in Japan. They're going to go back to that, right? And to strengthen your borders and say, these are the values we're going to uphold. This is the direction that we're going to take our country for our people. And if you want to be a part of that as an immigrant, well, then you're going to respect the process, and what it takes, the criteria that it takes to enter our country. What was happening in
It's
the
very
last
rigid.
4 years? What happened in the last 4 years here in America, I think, was criminal. Um, you know, 10 to 15 million folks got through the border, and we didn't know who the hell they were. There was no verification system. They gave a name and released into the country, and in many cases flown to their city of choice in a jet. Just unreal stuff that was
Insane.
happening. And again, this is a global rejection of that end game where we were headed,
Mm-hmm.
where relativism, secularism, globalism is dying. Hopefully, we can kill it with steely knives, 1,000 of them.
Yeah, and we kill it by changing hearts and minds to our side. I think that that is definitely what is happening. Growing up as a little girl, from what I knew from Japan, is that they were a society that was very rigid in its traditional norms, that they care a lot about honor, right? They're one of the cleanliest places in the world. They care about the environment, they care about each other, they care about maintaining the communities. They have a lot of programs that function on an honor system.
That's
Like leaving stuff out and
across
knowing that nobody
society.
else is gonna take it. Exactly. They're a civilized society, a conservative cultural society, and I think that they want to keep it that way. Those are the highlights that I remember from Japan, just growing up and not knowing much else about the country, and still kind of stands true to this day. So it seems that
But
this
under threat, right?
alignment, yeah, this seems that this is just a natural alignment for the country to make sure that their political leaders reflect their internal cultural values. And I think this is just a fantastic, fantastic matchup. So we're going to wish them the most success ever. And hopefully, this will make our relationship, the US Japan relationship and alliance, even stronger than before. In the meantime, though, guess what Democrats are still doing back here at home? Of course, none other than trying to keep Kilmar Abrego Garcia here in the US and giving him his seventh hearing already to try to figure out what happens to him. This illegal MS-13 affiliated or gang affiliated human trafficker has been granted yet another hearing after a federal judge claimed that the Department of Justice was vindictive. So again, this comes after 6 previous hearings and multiple deportation orders. Of course, taxpayers are continuing to foot the bill for this political circus, just hundreds and thousands of dollars in court and back and forth with travel. Remember, this is a guy, by the way, that like beat up his wife, has domestic abuse charges and restrictions placed on him. This is the man that Democrats are going to bat for here in the U.S. Not just that. Remember, Democrats, when the national mandate that President Trump was trying to fill of removing this influx of hundreds of thousands, millions of illegal immigrants that came into this country. When Trump was trying to fill that mandate, the Democrats came up with the Ice Block app, an app on your iPhone where you could track and dox ICE agents so that you can help these illegals from being caught and deported back to their country. Finally, Apple removed this app, but this is what the Democrats are doing. They're standing up for people affiliated to gang violence, has a history of domestic abuse, has deportation orders. This is their stand-up guy. They are standing up for keeping people that invaded this country like a horde, using an app and using technology, while other places are trying to put their country first and put their citizens and their nationals first. This is what they're doing. We've got Democrat lawmakers that are, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, supporting healthcare for these illegal immigrants. In fact, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching remember this, or maybe you guys don't if you're not political nerds like some of us on this show, that during the Democratic presidential nominee debate, during one of them, it was hosted by NBC, the host asked for everybody that was a Democrat candidate nominee for the presidency, to raise their hands if they would support healthcare for illegal immigrants, and every single hand went up. So that is where the Democrat priorities are, it seems to be. And so, we really have to wonder what the heck is going on. I mean, what kind of message does this send to legal immigrants and actual immigrants that follow the law? Angelina.
Coming from a family of legal Mexican immigrants, my abuelos, they're former migrant workers. They're from Trevino, Nuevo León, and Monterrey. I mean, they did everything the right way. They received their status by taking the test, by paying the attorney. They did everything the right way. So they feel completely treaded on. and just utterly disappointed in their own government. It's mind-blowing how because Trump is against Kilmar, that the left is running to defend him. Like, how fixated
Mhm.
and loyal to party politics do you have to be to sympathize with gang members? The media
Yeah.
is
No,
framing him to be a Maryland man. No, he is a wife.
the Maryland man,
The
right?
Maryland man. He's a Maryland man. No, he is a wife-beating, human trafficking, undocumented MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. Kilmar was
Mhm.
confirmed an MS-13 gang member by two separate judges. As well, he was arrested with two other known members of MS-13. As well, his wife had petitioned for an order of protection to defend herself from his domestic violence. So in common leftist fashion, they're rushing to defend him. The left has this horrible reputation when it comes to selecting their spokespeople, truly.
Mhm. Yep, yep. And a part of me kind of again rejoices in the fact that they are their own worst enemies and keep shooting themselves in the foot. But what reforms could stop judges from just dragging out these cases indefinitely? Daniel, what are some ideas that you may have on that?
God, I'm no expert in jurisprudence, but yeah, I thought the Supreme Court decision was going to put a stop to this crap.
Mm-hmm.
These folks are, rogue basically. They are activists in judges' robes, and
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing is undermining our institutions. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this fixation that liberals have with Omar Abrego. This is white savior complex run amok. This is suicidal empathy to the nth degree. And the most insulting part about this is that by helping Abrego, you are helping ipso facto the Latino community. They associate us to this person, this wife beating, human smuggling gang member, is a reflection of who we are to the liberals, and therefore he must be saved. Look at us
Right.
saving you, Latino community. Look at us being the white saviors coming to your rescue against those mean Republicans, who are trying to deport this young valedictorian. It's like, and it was like,
It
the Latino
truly,
community has rejected this bastard, and here you people are, trying to
yeah,
paint him as some angel, who
yeah.
he's not. You have violated every oath, every promise that every immigrant makes when they come to America is to uphold the American Constitution and live,
Mm-hmm.
within a civil society as an
Mm-hmm.
upstanding citizen. He has done exactly the opposite. If they would
Mm-hmm.
put as much passion into helping the Latino community by upholding American principles, not
Mm-hmm.
giving us programs. You can keep your welfare. You can keep your programs. Just get out of the way. With the Latino
Yep.
community, they would put that much passion into restricting government interference and cronyism and the corruption in government
Red tape, yeah.
as they're putting into the saving this Obrego criminal. My God, we would be another society, but this again undermines our justice system, our
Mm-hmm.
judicial system as well. The
Mm-hmm.
left refuses to acknowledge that we have a criminality problem within the immigrant community, and that's an issue. The media manipulates a lot of the narratives and the stories, and so I'm sick of this one. Can you just let this guy remain in peace in this country for the love of God.
Absolutely, I agree with you. This
Valedictorian.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, yeah. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is no Superman, but to the left, he's definitely their Supermang, apparently. And they are going to the ends of the earth to defend this guy. Hopefully, some kind of law, some kind of restriction gets passed where taxpayer dollars aren't used in defense of people that shouldn't be here in the country in the first place. But we'll see. We'll see what's to come. Thank you guys so much again for coming on to the show. You guys are fantastic as always, and we hope to have you back soon. Thank you again, Daniel Garza. Thank you again. Thank you again, Angelina. You guys are fantastic. Till next time.